60 Minutes Rewind.
With the Taliban on the run, city after Afghan city falling, the circle tightening around Osama bin Laden, and Americans still jittery about terrorism, what better time to hear what's on the mind of Vice President Dick Cheney? He hasn't been in public much at all, and most of what we hear about him is when he's taken into hiding in case of terrorist attack. But the Vice President has a lot to say about the war, abroad and at home, and he said it to Gloria Borger, our CBS News correspondent, who sat down with him in his office this morning.
Mr. Vice President, how would you describe the state of the Taliban right now?
I think they're in terrible shape, frankly. The military campaign, I think, has been enormously successful. We've seen them lose control over the vast part of Afghanistan. They controlled about 90% of it a couple of months ago. And today they've been driven out of most of the major cities. Their military capability also has been enormously affected. The air campaign that General Franks ran against the Taliban, I think, was devastating. They had no idea what was going to happen to them. And once that happened, of course, and the Northern Alliance then began to move, the Taliban really has collapsed. They're a far less formidable force today than they were.
So if you had to say they were retreating or regrouping, which would it be?
I think they're still in headlong retreat. So another key point to make here, I think, Gloria, is that this shows what the president meant when we talked about what's come to be known as the Bush doctrine, the fact that if you harbor terrorists, if you provide sanctuary for terrorist organization, you will pay the price. And that lesson, I think, has been driven home very effectively. Anybody out there tonight, any government who might have had aspirations to harbor terrorists, has to look at what happened to the Taliban and probably reconsider their position.
Events, it seems, unfolded an awful lot more quickly than many people expected in Afghanistan. And we've just a day or so ago seen photographs of summary executions by the Northern Alliance. Are you worried that this could get a bit out of control?
We've done everything we can to discourage it. We've talked with the commanders and emphasized to them how important it is that they retain control of their forces. I think so far, for the most part, they have. That doesn't mean there aren't isolated instances where, in fact, prisoners have been executed. There's not much we can do about that. But no one should be surprised if, in fact, there are some very painful consequences in the aftermath of capturing some of these cities.
Can the Northern Alliance finish this war, or will America have to put a substantial number of troops on the ground to do it?
I think you've got to remember what our objectives are in Afghanistan. We got involved in this exercise because they were providing sanctuary for Osama bin Laden. Our target has been bin Laden, the Al-Qaeda network that he organizes. When the Taliban refused to produce him, then they became a target as well. So in the final analysis, what we want to have happen here is to have an end to the conflict, an end to the years of civil war that have raged in the country.
But what about ground troops? What will that take?
I don't want to make forecast one way or the other as to what the United States will or won't do with respect to future military operations. It's not helpful to signal in advance what your plans might be or will or won't be with respect to our adversaries. We have not had to put a large U.S. force on the ground in Afghanistan to achieve these results. We are prepared to do whatever is necessary in order to achieve the objectives we laid out.
You get daily intelligence briefings on this war. Can you tell us what the profilers are telling you about Osama bin Laden's state of mind right now?
Difficult. I can speculate, but it's rank speculation, and sometimes
Go right ahead.
You obviously, if you were Osama bin Laden today, or Mullah Omar, leader of the Taliban, leader of Al-Qaeda, I think you'd have to be very, very nervous. You've in effect seen your organizations pounded from a military standpoint. You've seen significant casualties inflicted. You've seen that area that you thought was a sanctuary inside Afghanistan, where you could hide and launch terror attacks outside the country, disappear as the Northern Alliance has moved in and the Taliban has lost control of the countryside as the people have risen up to overthrow the Taliban. Part of the problem here, too, if you're Osama bin Laden, I think, is that he's operating now as a foreigner in Afghanistan. Remember, this is one of the world's great terrorists. He killed thousands of Americans. He's he's perverted Islam to try to justify killing folks. And now I think what we're seeing in Afghanistan is, as people welcome, if you will, the end of Taliban rule, that there's a lot of animosity on their part for Osama bin Laden as well, too, that he represents these foreign element and that they are probably no longer welcome just about any place in Afghanistan.
Given the massive number of defections we're hearing about, is your intelligence getting any better about where Osama bin Laden is?
We get a lot of reports. I wouldn't at this point want to get too precise, obviously. I can't, I shouldn't. But it's a fluid situation. The circumstances on the ground have changed dramatically just in a matter of days. And areas that were probably safe for him 48 or 72 hours ago are no longer safe for him. And as that happens, as the President said when this started, we'll keep after him until we smoke him out and run him to ground.
Is he on the run?
I think he is. I think he's probably still in Afghanistan, but I think he's having to move pretty dramatically from place to place to try to stay ahead of the advancing forces of the opposition.
Mr. Vice President, the President has approved special military tribunals for foreigners accused of terrorism. Are we now going to have secret trials?
The question of tribunals, the precedent for it is there. It was used by FDR in World War II with respect to German saboteurs who were sent into the United States to commit acts of sabotage. He set up a military tribunal. These individuals were tried, found guilty, and executed. These people are not American citizens. They come into the United States or they conspire to support attacks designed to kill thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of Americans, innocent people, men, women, and children. They should not be entitled to the same kind of treatment that an American citizen would going through the normal law enforcement process. And that's as it should be. It's the right thing to do.
Do you personally believe that Saddam Hussein might have had something to do with any of this?
I have no way to know whether or not he did. It's an interesting question. It's one that we're interested in pursuing and exploring. But at this stage, I cannot say with certainty that he was or wasn't.
Well, you know that Mohammed Atta, the ringleader of the hijackers, actually met with an Iraqi intelligence official.
In Prague in April of this year, as well as earlier. And that information has been made public. The Czechs made that public. Obviously, that's an interesting piece of information.
Sounds like you have your suspicions.
I can't operate on suspicions. The President and the rest of us who are involved in this effort have to make what we think are the right decisions for the United States and the national security arena, and that's what we're doing. And it doesn't do a lot of good for us to speculate.
Mr. Vice President, during this crisis, you have been constantly sent to what we now know as the undisclosed location or locations for security reasons. Can you tell us why they keep doing this?
We've done it because we feel it's important, especially when the threat level goes up, to keep the President and myself separated, that is not physically occupy the same space at the same time. In years past, when we were worried about presidential security, we've been concerned primarily with the act of an individual, some nut with a gun, who would try to take out, assassinate the President of the United States. And it's happened all too often in our history. But that's a very different scale of threat than a situation in which you've got people able to organize a conspiracy and threaten, in effect, not just one individual, but threaten the government and conceivably be able to try to decapitate the federal government. That is to say, to take out the entire leadership of our government.
So what do they do when they take you away? Can you describe it to us? Some of how we operate is classified. It needs to be classified. You don't want to tell your adversary details that would help them overcome the processes you put in place. But what you want to have is a government that could take over immediately and be up and running in short order. Do they come in and get you? I mean, how do they?
Now it goes in as part of the schedule. I mean, it's planned in advance. I know when the President's going to be in the White House.
Oh, I see.
Then generally I'll be someplace else. I have a small staff with me, core staff.
Where do you go?
People with me. We go to physical physically secure locations, places where you have good communications. I am in touch with him frequently. Today, for example, he's in Crawford, Texas. I'm here in the White House.
Has the likelihood of a new terror attack in this country increased or decreased, would you say, in the last couple of weeks?
The threat level has clearly gone up in recent weeks because of reporting we received that led us to believe that, in fact, there was the likelihood of an additional attack. But there's no question about what the threat level is still pretty significant out there, especially if we come to the end of the road here for bin Laden in Afghanistan and we're successful in wrapping him up. That in and of itself could be a signal that would trigger some kind of a revenge attack, if you will, by people loyal to bin Laden. So it doesn't end necessarily with him.
You're saying that if we kill Osama bin Laden, we have to expect retaliation.
It could happen. I don't know. I can't predict, but that's certainly a possibility.
And you also said a few weeks ago that there could be these bin Laden cells you just spoke about operating in the United States. Do you still believe there are?
We're doing everything we can to wrap them up, and I think we've made major progress against them. That doesn't mean there aren't people here that we don't know about, that we haven't identified. We have to assume there are others like that out there until we can actually complete our investigations and do everything we can to capture them.
The story will continue after this.
When you were first spirited away to an undisclosed location, there were all kinds of rumors, I'm sure you're aware, that were floating around Washington. Oh my, you had heart problems, and there must be something wrong with Dick Cheney. How's your health?
Health's been fine.
Nothing's been affected by this?
No, nothing's been affected by it. I stay close, accompanied by doctors all the time. I would be anyway, even if I didn't have a history of heart problems. But my docs keep regular track of me. They've been in recently and downloaded my pacemaker. They have this pacemaker they installed last summer, and they can come in and in effect put what looks like a computer mouse on it and download onto a laptop the history of everything that's been going on there.
How's the history? What's been going on?
It's never gone off.
So what do you say to Americans who worry about the impact that this kind of a crisis could have on their vice president, given your heart disease?
Well, so far it's been a set of problems we have to deal with, but it goes with the turf, and there's been no impact on my health. I appreciate their thoughtfulness. I run into a lot of people who ask after me to see how I'm doing, and say they offer prayers for my good health, and I appreciate that.
How has this crisis changed you?
Well, I can't say my hair's any grayer. It was already pretty gray when it started. It makes you think about the United States, how we live our lives, your family. It's been, on the one hand, I'm sure a traumatic experience for a great many people. On the other hand, too, I've been tremendously impressed with how the country's responded, how the American people have come together.
What about you, though?
Well, I've got a job to do, and I enjoy very much doing this particular job. I'm enormously privileged to be sitting here as Vice President in this administration, taking on these kinds of assignments. I can't think of more important work that I could be doing with my life at this stage of my career. So I'm glad I'm here, glad I can help.